The time is now 6 p.m. Our regular City Council meeting for March 8th, 2022 is now in session. First on the agenda is Councilmember Whitaker will lead us with the opening prayer and the pledges of allegiance to the flags of the United States and the state of Texas. Please rise.
Let us pray. Dear Father in heaven, there's chaos and war happening right now in our world. There are families in crisis and people in danger. There is uncertainty about what will happen next, how our own country will be affected or get involved. People are anxious and worried. But the big problems don't mean our other problems have gone away. We all have struggles and challenges that we face. In this chamber, we still have decisions to be made that affect the future of this city. We know that you see us in the big things and the small. Thank you for caring about our safety and security as much as you care about our peace of mind. Please look over the people who are today in harm's way. Protect them and bring them through this conflict safely. Protect our troops who are traveling to Eastern Europe to support NATO efforts. Bring them all home safely. And protect our homeland from war. But also be with us tonight. Be with each person and help them with whatever is on their heart. Thank you for being our source of protection, comfort, and peace. May all we do bring honor to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Councilmember Whitaker. As a reminder, students who are participating in the Hal Baldwin Scholarship are required to sign in on the sheet that is located in the back. And students watching online can still receive credit by contacting Sarah Gonzalez, and that number is 210-619-1015. Again, that's Sarah Gonzalez, 210-619-1015. We have a presentation, so I'll come down to the bottom here, and if I can have the Knights of Columbus, please join me up here. This is a City of Schertz proclamation. The Schertz Knights of Columbus. The Schertz Knights of Columbus Day, March 15, 2022. Whereas the Knights of Columbus is a global Catholic fraternal service founded by Michael J. McGivney on March 29, 1882. That's about 140 years ago. Whereas the Schertz Knights of Columbus, Chapter 6358, and on March 15th marks their 50th anniversary to dedicating and promoting charitable, religious, and social welfare education. Whereas the Schertz Knights of Columbus provide a supportive and caring environment that nurtures and enables residents and families to continue to grow, learn, and teach by enjoying life to their fullest potential. Whereas the Schertz Knights of Columbus continue to use the 4 basic core principles of charity, unity, fraternity, and patriotism to provide for our community, such as coats for kids, food for families, hosting the Veterans Day and Memorial Day ceremonies. Whereas the Schertz Knights of Columbus assisted the city of Schertz with their volunteer efforts during the COVID-19 vaccine clinics and assisted with over 35,000 community vaccines. I, therefore, Ralph Gutierrez, Mayor for the City of Schertz, do hereby proclaim the day of March 15, 2022 as the City of Schertz Knights of Columbus Day, and urge citizens to visit and thank this group and show their appreciation to these members who care about our city and our community. Thank you, guys. Would you like to say a couple words?
Mayor Gutierrez, Chamber Council members, thank you for this honor. We at the Knights of Columbus, we thoroughly enjoy being members. We thoroughly enjoy supporting the community and giving back to the community. And we'll continue in our charter as far as charity, unity, and fraternity. Sorry. But again, on the 20th, we're going to have our celebration. And it's basically a celebration of what has happened over the last 50 years of past members that have done this. So again, Mayor Gutierrez, thank you very much for this honor that you bestowed upon us.
I got this presentation. Let's take a picture right
Okay.
over here. No, the Schertz Knights of Columbus have really contributed to our community in so many different ways. As I mentioned, the COVID-19, they have excellent fish fries too on Friday. So thank you so much for everything you do for our city and our community. We'll continue with announcements. Announcements of upcoming events. Mr. Kell?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. On Saturday, March 19th, we have Breakfast with the Heat at Schertz YMCA from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. This event will be held on the splash pad, so bring your families and your smiles. On Tuesday, March 22nd, we have our next regularly scheduled council meeting at 6 p.m. here in the chambers. And then on Friday, March 25th, we have our pre-budget retreat, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Fire Station 3. And that is it for today.
Thank you. Announcements and recognitions by our city manager, Dr. Brown.
Yeah, Brenda's going to get a picture up here. So this is a picture of our policy team, our leadership team, all of our department heads, and the city manager's office. We gathered for a retreat on Thursday and Friday. We started with a walk at Heritage Oaks Park, which was a lovely day, and a beautiful park it is. We had a really good retreat. We talked a lot about team building and how to move forward as a team. I think it was a great conversation, very frank conversation. We spent over a day and a half doing that, and I think everybody got a lot out of it. So I'm very optimistic about the future of our team and really appreciate everybody's input. So just wanted to let you know that we did that, and it was a very successful event.
Thank you. Okay, announcements and recognitions by the mayor. I have a couple of announcements. This past weekend, we had the Kick Cancer Wheelcheck run, and I'd like to thank all the residents that came out to support the cause. And I have a special presentation. Mr. Brian James. You forgot your medal. Mr. Brian James got second place on his age group. I won't say the age, but
That's okay, I don't mind. I'll shake hand. I'll let you put it on me, too. I'll proudly wear it.
and I guess Michael beat him because he's on the same age group, and he got first place. Congratulations, guys. No, I don't know how many were. Yeah, I think there was. It's not the age, the fact that you were there, that's what counts. I think they kept running after the race. They didn't know when to stop. Okay, I also have another announcement. This past weekend, I did have the privilege of attending a special birthday celebration. One of our residents, Mr. Raymond Flores, had his 100th birthday celebration, and it was quite an honor to be invited to his celebration and the many stories that he shared with us. So congratulations, Mr. Flores. All right. We'll move on to the hearing of residents. This time is set aside for any person who wishes to address the City Council. Each person is limited to 3 minutes, and we ask before addressing the Council. For the record, please state your name and address. Mayor Pro Tem Scaglione, please call our first speaker.
First individual on the list is Mr. Daniel Jameson.
My name is Daniel Jameson, 1048 Richmond Drive here in Schertz. I've been a longtime resident for, Schertz for a while. And this morning I was out on 1518 to pick up an individual, and my GPS system had me go onto Ray Corbett Drive, but I looked for a sign. I didn't see one. So if there is one, it needs to be brightened up so it can be seen at a 50-mile-an-hour speed zone. And that may be on all the signs here in the city. Maybe just a little bit of bright white paint, and you can do a lot with a gallon of paint on some of these letters and street names. So, maybe we can take that as a project throughout the city and get it done. But, once again, congratulations to Brian and Mike, and keep your young age going. Thank you.
Next on the list, Ms. Maggie.
Y'all don't have to be scared to say my last name.
I'm not scared.
Maggie Titterington, 1730 Schertz Parkway, and just wanted to give some chamber updates and some thank yous. Thank you so much to council, to mayor. Whenever you show up for ribbon cuttings, whether it's at the places of business in Schertz, whether it's outside the city like it was yesterday for Live Oak, for the floor and decor, it means so much to these businesses, especially the ones that are the home-based, and to have the outpouring of the council to be there to make them feel so welcome. I mean, I don't know how many times they get teared up and they actually, believe it or not, cry outside just saying how much they're overwhelmed by the support. But thank you all so much. I just really wanted to reiterate that. We had a great kickoff. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for showing up with Maria and a few of you that came out resident-wise for HEB Taste Local Flavor Tour kickoff. Our 25 restaurants in the area are so excited about this. They had people coming in starting that day with their game cards and all throughout this week, and they're excited that there's a lot of new people coming in and recognizing that, yes, we have, Asian and Mexican and chicken and pizza and all these different types of varieties of foods that maybe they haven't checked out. So we're hoping we're going to increase the commerce and get the money moving in our areas, but thank you all so much for supporting that. Game cards are on sale at either chamber location, the Schertz offices or the Selma offices, and the game cards are only $10, and if you go out there, even if you just go to 3 places, 3 restaurants on this game card, you have a chance to win $50, and then it goes up to $100 and $200 and $500 and $1,000. So the more places you all visit, the more chances you get to win. And we actually do the drawing the first Thursday in April, and we'll do it on Facebook Live. Also, thank you, whether it's Brian James, whether it's Public Works, somebody. Our visitor center's looking really good outside. The landscaping that is happening, they're doing it in slow measures. We're actually going to see what the final result is going to look like after they complete it in a couple months. But if you all have come out, they're redoing some of the decking, they're redoing some of the land. It just looks fabulous. So thank you so much for that. Last two things, we are going to Austin with our Leadership Corps class, and if there's any white letters of support, I realize we're not in legislative session, but we're still going to be meeting with our area representatives, so if the city of Schertz has anything on their minds that they want us to carry to talk to our representatives about, please get it to me before April 12th, and I will be glad to take that up for you. And last, speaking about Leadership Corps class, we had our class today, and they announced that they have chosen the Schertz Animal Facility for their project. So each class has a project where they fundraise, they gather items, and they've chosen to partner to get pet supplies, food supplies, blankets, towels, whatever it is. They're working directly with them, and so at our July luncheon when they graduate, they will have a big presentation to give to the Schertz Animal Facility. That's all I have. Thank you.
Next is Bobby Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And panel, you know, this, before I even start, my 3 minutes are clocking, but before I start, I always wanted to say something to you, Mayor. It's an honor to have a mayor like you. I mean, you really represent the heart of the city. I really mean that. I want to say that. And I think this panel and the city manager, I think everyone is wonderful, and the people behind the scene, I know they are making this happen. So it's all good. But I wanted to address an issue about drainage issue. It's an easement in my that goes through my.
Excuse me, I hate to interrupt you. Name and address.
Yes, Bobby Jones. Bobby Jones. Address is 12406 Guy Gisborne. So I'm guessing about 3 years ago, we had a city council meeting at Corbett Middle School. And at that time, I brought up an issue about this drainage that goes through my yard. And it's about 200 feet. And so what happens, this is clean, this is actually clean right now. So this drainage, when the heavy rains come, it just floods with trash, debris, mud, it's a mess. And I wind up having to pay someone maybe a couple of times a year, roughly $500, $550 a year to clean it up. But at that previous meeting we had about 3 years ago at Corbett, Public Works says that they would address that and they would keep that clean. And they never have. And I have gone down there and I have called down there several times, even this day, and I can't get anyone to respond. So this right here, and I don't know if there's no pointer on this at all. Yeah, okay, there is a pointer. Right back here, direction towards me here, is a concrete culvert. It's like a, I think we can get it on the other one. How do we reduce this? Okay, yes, ma'am. Okay, so is that the same one or no? It's different? Okay, so, but anyhow, there is a concrete culvert right here, a riffraff, and it's just full of mud. I hand dug this. This thing here from this ditch is approximately 12 inches deep. It goes deeper down here. But I can't get the city to do anything. I put this retainer wall here, almost $70,000 worth of retainer wall because of the way this ditch is made. My house is to the left over here. The drainage, the erosion was a problem. So I put $70,000 into this wall here. And I just finished it maybe a half a year, 6 months ago. But now the drainage is coming from over here, from a neighbor's yard. And so the debris and the mud is coming back. This is city easement, but all of this that you see is my property, and I can't get any help. So the people promised before that they would. Public Works, it was another person, I think he's gone, Mr. Dudley. They promised. And so I'm asking this panel if you can do anything about this, and if they say that they are going to do it, maybe you can make sure that they do the work. Because right now, just say this, right now, I checked with the company to come clean it off with a skid steer or bobcat, and this time they're saying $3,500. I can't afford to keep doing that. So that's what I wanted to address. Thanks.
Okay, before you go away, Dr. Brown, who should Mr. Jones speak with? Suzanne? There you go.
Yeah, if you can see Suzanne right now.
Fantastic. Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you very much, sir. Fourth person on the list is Judy Goldick.
Okay.
We'll come up together.
Okay, you're going to tag team us, huh? Okay, Judy Goldick and Jerry Goldick.
Yes, so Judy and Jerry Goldick, 807 Main Street, Schertz. I know this isn't the first time you've seen me, and thank you, Mayor and councilmen and women, for listening to our concerns in regards to the parking on Main Street. Most recently, the parking situation has driven out one of our tenants at 807 Main. I had the opportunity to acquire a new tenant, showed the property last week, and 2 days later she said, I just can't do it. I love the space, but the parking is an issue, and I'm concerned for my clients. It was to be a salon. And although there were going to be just 1 or 2 people in at a time, she was still concerned about that. And so we've invested quite a bit of money and time and labor in bringing new businesses and life into Main Street. And the parking situation now is affecting us at a completely different level in that we can't get our space rented out. And we rely on those funds to help cover the expenses of the other businesses across the street. And so I don't know if there's anything we can do in regards to maybe saving a couple of street parking spaces for our business or not, but it is going to continue to be an issue, and now we're 2 months with a vacant space, and it seems to be that it is the parking, because the space is beautiful. I officed there for 4 years, so. But anyway, that's my concern.
And I understand that there's an ongoing process to deal with this issue on Main Street, whether it's limited 2-hour parking or whatever, and giving residents passes, which is fine, great when that happens, but it's taken a while, of course. So I would like to recommend that if it's possible to give AMM Collision a variance and allow them to park behind that fence until the problem is fixed. Then once the problem's corrected, then get it out, because that was the problem. When they were told they can't park behind that fence anymore, now they're all over the street. I mean,
And they've even used.
multiple cars.
Last week, we had one of their vehicles parked in our parking lot directly in front of the cars will be towed at owner's expense.
They just
It was
park, they
parked
don't
there
care.
for 2 hours, and so
yeah.
that's frustrating too. And of course, the gentleman that they send over to talk to us when I threatened to have it towed is someone way down here. I mean, it's no one in management, it's someone that's just sent over to move the car. And so it's gotten a little frustrating. So not only are they taking all the street parking, but they're parking in my parking lot as well. And so those are our concerns. Thank you for your time. Do you have anything else?
No?
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much. Y'all have a good evening.
Before you go away, Dr. Brown, any suggestions as to who they should address this issue with?
I think the Main Street Committee has taken the issue and looking into it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you. That's the last one on the list, sir.
Oh, okay, thank you. We'll move on to consent agenda items. They are considered self-explanatory, and information packets are provided to council and available for public viewing. These items require no separate discussion unless requested by council. Item number 1, minutes. The approval of the minutes of our regular meeting on March 1st, 2022. Item number 2, resolution number 22R28, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing the city manager to enter into a job order contract with Sullivan Contracting Services to complete the Civic Center HVAC replacement project. Item number 3, ordinance number 22T09, an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing an adjustment to the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget to provide funding for the Civic Center HVAC replacement project, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance and providing an effective date. This is also our final reading. Item number 4, ordinance number 22T10, an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing an adjustment to the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget to purchase property from the Guadalupe Blanco River Authority, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance and providing an effective date. This is also our final reading. Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola, will you continue reading the rest of the consent items?
Item number 5, resolution number 22R33, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing the purchase of 3.4 acres of property, more or less, located at 22330 IH 35 North, Schertz, Texas, from the Guadalupe Blanco River Authority, GBRA, authorizing the execution of the necessary documents to complete the purchase and transfer of said property and other matters in connection therewith. Item number 6, resolution number 22R32, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing the extension of the independent audit services contract for 2 years with Patillo, Brown, and Hill. Item number 7, resignation of Mr. Mateo Garcia, there we go, Transportation Safety Advisory Council, or Commission. And then item number 8, resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing a contract with Fuquay Inc. relating to the Crest Oak wastewater upsize project and authorizing the budget expenditures for the project. That's all, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Council, do any of these need to be removed for separate action? Is there a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 8?
So moved.
Second.
We have motion by Councilmember Hayward and second by Councilmember Dalla. Council, any other comments? Let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
We have 6 ayes, no objection, motion passes. We'll move on to discussion items and action items. Item number 9, resolution number 22R31. A resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing the approval of the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year of 2020 and 2021 and other matters in connection therewith. Mr. Walters, you have the floor.
Hi, Mayor and Council. My name is Bobette Martin. I'm the Assistant Finance Director. Today we have Clayton Rogers from our independent auditor firm, Patillo, Brown, and Hill. He'll be doing the presentation of the CAFR.
Thank you, Bobette. Mayor, thank you all for having me tonight. As she said, my name is Clayton Rogers. I'm with the audit firm Patillo, Brown, and Hill out of Waco. And at the risk of killing all of the suspense, I'll just go ahead and say everything was good. I'm here to present to you guys the results of the fiscal year 2021 financial statement audit and answer any questions that you may have. I'm going to keep it fairly high level. We did meet with the Audit and Finance Committee a couple of weeks back. Went over some things in a little bit more detail, but as we go through this, I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have about the audit or about the financial statements that are sitting in front of you. So if we will turn to page, I'm sorry? Oh. Fancy. So if you turn in the big book in front of you, I always like to start at the beginning on page 1. just as a refresher, what we were engaged to do is a couple of things. We were engaged to plan and perform an audit of these financial statements that are in front of you, and ultimately gather evidence to render an opinion on whether or not these financial statements are materially right. We also, I will touch on this in a few minutes, we also were engaged for the second year in a row to perform a federally mandated second audit called a single audit. It's sort of a compliance audit of certain federal programs that the city is expending funds under. And again, at the end of the day, we were gathering evidence to render an opinion on the city's compliance with certain compliance requirements with that federal funding. Here on page 1 is the independent auditor's report of this annual financial report. And in very simple, plain terms, what this is stating is reiterating our responsibility as the auditor and management's responsibility at the city. Management's responsible for these financial statements and everything that is in them. Our responsibility is to audit them and render an opinion on them. If you will flip to page 2, at the end of our audit, we render the opinion on these financial statements, and at the top, I am of page 2. I'm happy to report that we were able to render what's known as an unmodified opinion. You also have probably heard the term clean opinion. Of the 4 types of results that we can render, that is the best one. It means that the financial statements that are in front of you, in our opinion, are materially correct in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and that there is nothing that is omitted or incorrect that would affect the decision-making of the people who use this information. So of the types of opinions we can render, this is the best one. As a corollary to that, however, I'd also like to touch on a few things. You have a couple of other documents here in front of you as well. The bound letter I'm not going to go into in a whole lot of detail. That letter is part of our professional standards. As we perform the audit, we are required to report certain things to you, the governing body, at the end of the audit. Various things from if we found significant fraud, if we found problems with internal control over financial reporting, or if we found significant violations of laws or regulations that might affect the financial statements. Just to ground it with an example, one of the things that we look at is the sales tax and property tax breakdowns between general and debt service property taxes, making sure that those legally restricted tax funds are being allocated to the purpose that they were assigned for. So if we had found problems with anything significant of that nature, we would be required under our professional standards to report them to you. But again, fortunately, we found no instances of any of those types of things, and this letter that's in front of you is would read extremely similar to last year, and it's all very, very boilerplate. I'd also like to touch on the other compliance audit that I mentioned a few minutes ago. In the other little booklet that is in front of you, the single audit report, it contains not only our opinion over the compliance that I will get to in a second, kind of as a corollary on page I'm so sorry, on page 3, this again reiterates our responsibility under what we call government auditing standards. Our professional association of certified public accountants has a bunch of standards that we follow, but since we're auditing a municipality with taxpayer funds, the federal government requires a bunch of other things that feed into the types of things that I talked about a minute ago, that if we found significant problems with internal control or compliance, we would be required to report those. Again, it's not something that, say, a for-profit entity, we would have to stand here in front of you, but since we're using public funds, that's where all of those requirements stem from. But again, no significant deficiencies in internal control that we determined or that we identified that would be something that would be meriting your attention. And we also, at the conclusion of the single audit, were able to render, again, an unmodified opinion over the city's compliance. If you look back a few pages to page 7, I want to point out just a couple of other things. This kind of summarizes the audit very well, and mentions again that we, at the top, issued an unmodified opinion over the financial statements as well as an unmodified opinion over compliance. A little bit further down the page, it specifies here which federal programs we were looking at. And we were looking at the TxDOT federal funds, or the funds that the city received from the Texas Department of Transportation. And then also just the first little bit of money that was spent under the American Rescue Plan. And so, again, what we were doing is looking at those programs and kind of doing a deep dive to see of the types of strings that the federal government attaches to using their money, were those really significant big strings being complied with? And again, we were able to render an unmodified opinion, as good as it gets, with no findings. One other thing I wanted to point out, you can see at the bottom of the page, this gets asked about sometimes. At the very bottom where it mentions, it asks if the auditee was a low-risk auditee, and it says no. The reason for that is simply it's a requirement of the federal government that there's a certain risk assessment criteria for the city itself, and that the city, the only reason it didn't qualify as low risk is because it has not received a single audit in both of the last 2 years. And that was just by virtue of the fact that the city most years has historically not received a single audit because it didn't meet the threshold for being required to have one. However, so because of the COVID funding and everything that's coming out of all of this federal COVID legislation, a single audit was triggered last year and this year, and we expect that it will be for several years. But we'll expect that that no will be a yes next year. So again, just to summarize, over the financial statements, clean opinion, as good as it gets. Compliance, clean opinion, good as it gets. No findings or anything that we need to report to y'all. I want to close by thanking James and his staff. An audit's always hard. It's always challenging, doing it in a pandemic, then with tons of new federal money and new accounting guidelines coming down the pipe. It was an especially challenging year, but everyone on the city staff was extremely helpful, forthcoming, responsive to our questions, and was able to get us everything we needed to be able to stand in here in front of you and finish the audit timely. That is all I wanted to cover, at the risk of putting anyone to sleep over going over all of the numbers in great detail. However, I would be happy to cover any questions when you were reviewing the financials that you might like to discuss.
Hey, thank you. Council, questions? Questions? I just have one thing I do want to express. I love the comparison that you put in there from for almost 10 years. It really provides great information to look at those numbers. And love the report. Thank you so much. Council, is there a motion to approve resolution number? Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, Councilmember Dalla.
This is kind of more for my personal curiosity on this. On page 59, we're talking about the pension liabilities. And it says that our pension liability is funded at 82.3%. And I know no organization is ever 100% funded, but how do we compare to our peers with where we're at on our pension funding?
Great question. So it's right in line. It all depends upon a bunch of things that feed into it. It can be, generally it's the really small governments that are up close to being fully funded. The larger ones tend to be a little bit less funded, but that is right in line with what we're expected to be seeing going forward. The liability is going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go a little bit in circles as the market changes. But one thing, if you were to dig into the very voluminous notes that they make us put into the financial statements about the pension liability, it does specify that the actuaries, the consulting actuary that looked at TMRS, they did conclude that the contributions that the city is making will fund the liability in the future.
And for the record, it increased from the last audit, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. 82%. Mhm. Any other questions, council? With that, is there a motion to approve resolution number 22R31?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Whitaker, second by Councilmember Hayward. Any other comments or questions? Let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Aye.
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 We have 6 ayes, no objection, motion passes. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 10, ordinance number 22G14. An ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, amending Chapter 66, Article 1 and Article 2 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Schertz, Texas, to provide the establishment of the City of Schertz Police Department, establishing the position of Chief of Police, and providing for the employment of the police officers, prescribing and the qualifications, duties, and responsibilities of the Chief of Police and the police officers, establishing jurisdiction boundaries of the department, providing a saving clause, and providing an effective date. This is our first reading. Chief Payne, floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Last time I was here speaking of best practices, I mentioned there was a couple of house cleaning items that we'd be coming back for, and this is one of those items. Any ordinance we have in the city is going to require some adjustment from time to time. They are living documents, and that's why I'm here tonight. The best practices program that we're pursuing, there is specific terminology within that program that they look for in the way the department is structured and the jurisdiction that we maintain, and that's why I'm here tonight, is just to meet those standards for the best practices program and get the ordinance in line with it.
Thank you, Chief. Council, floor is open for discussion. No discussion?
Yeah, I can't let it go. Hey, Article 66, I noticed a bunch of red lines in there, or just crossed out things before we get down to the reading material in section 66.1. What is the revision all about, basically?
There is, with best practices, they're looking for specific terminology for what they call the creation of the police department and the responsibilities of the chief and the officers and jurisdictional responsibilities as well. When some of this was written, anywhere from back from the late 50s into the 60s into the 70s, the terminology was just different back then in the creation of the police department.
Well, what concerned me most is section 66.1, arrest without warrants. And, okay, it sounds like our police officers should have that type of authority to do that. But under the rewrite, section 66-1, establishment of police department jurisdictions, I don't see that we changed anything about arrest policy by revising that particular section. So what happened to the authority of our police officers to maintain the peace?
The authority derived for those arrests comes out of the state law, or your CCP in your penal code.
So what you're saying is that has not gone away?
Correct.
It's just
Correct.
in the state law?
Yes, sir.
And you revised this ordinance to reflect what the best practices, what it needs to say for
Yes, sir.
best practices.
That's correct.
You haven't taken away any authority by virtue of this, is that correct?
No, sir, none at all.
Okay, then we get into the sections on the police chief. What was the rationale behind revising that particular section?
Again, it was just cleaning up some terminology. The chief's position was actually originally created back in 1966. It went from a town marshal to a police chief. So the chiefs has existed for since 1966. Part of that, it was town marshal. Again, it was just cleaning up the terminology to meet those best practices standards.
Okay, thank you.
Hey. Yes, Councilmember Whitaker.
So just to clarify, so what I feel like you're saying is that that's standardized language that you were asked to use. It's not like you made up the new language. You're just, so we are kind of in line with everyone else. It's standardized.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's what I thought you were saying.
Council, any other comments? Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 22G14?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Hayward, second by Councilmember Whitaker. Any other comments? Let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
We have 6 ayes, no objection, motion passes. Okay. Our City Secretary, Brenda Dennis, will provide us now with the roll call confirmation on consent agenda items 1 through 8 and discussion items 9 and 10. Ms. Dennis?
Yes, Mayor. Consent agenda items 1 through 8. A motion was made by Councilmember Hayward, seconded by Councilmember Dalla. Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola, Councilmembers Davis, Whitaker, Dalla, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed 6-0. Item number 9, resolution number 22R31. A motion was made by Councilmember Whitaker, seconded by Councilmember Hayward. Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola, Councilmembers Davis, Whitaker, Dalla, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed 6-0. Item number 10, ordinance number 22G14 on first reading. A motion was made by Councilmember Hayward, seconded by Councilmember Whitaker. Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola, Councilmembers Davis, Whitaker, Dalla, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Dennis. All right, we'll move on to item number 11, monthly updates on major projects in progress and capital improvement projects. This is information packets that were provided to council and available for public viewing at our website, schertz.com. All right, and we'll continue with any further announcements from our city manager, Dr. Brown.
Yeah, I wanted to thank James Walters and Bobette for doing a great work on the audit. Of course, they left, but they did a tremendous amount of work. It's one of the biggest efforts of the year for the finance department, and I think they truly did outstanding work this year, and we really appreciate all they did to make the audit such a success.
Okay. Council, any possible updates or information requested from staff? Council, is there any items you'd like to place on a future agenda item? No. Okay, announcements by council members. Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola.
Yeah, I just want to mention the kick cancer. Again, the staff did a great job setting that up. And then I went out to the BVYA, had their, not really a kickoff, but their ball throw out, let's put it that way. And Mayor Stosh got to throw the softball, and then they gave me the hard ball, and oh my goodness, okay, I didn't embarrass the city. It was, no, I'd been practicing throwing the ball to my granddaughter, who's 9 years old. So, I didn't really want to, burn it in. But, yeah, it got to the box. It was a little bit low and outside, but okay, they didn't ask me to join any of the teams. That's all I have.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes, sir. I attended the meeting of the Schertz Housing Authority last night.
Councilmember Whitaker.
Yes, I attended the BVYA opening day parade and ceremonies with the first pitch. He did not embarrass the city, so but it is called opening day, so play ball. And then Floor and Decor grand opening ribbon cutting in Live Oak, so it was a great turnout by multiple cities, and as Maggie Titterington said, it just feels really good to know that all the surrounding cities support businesses locally, and it makes you feel like you're in one big family, so that's it.
Councilmember Dalla.
Like we previously called out, I participated in the Kick Cancer 5K. I'd like to thank my dog Maverick for dragging me along for such a great time to finish the race.
Councilmember Hayward.
I attended the ribbon cutting, Floor and Decor, and it was great to see a lot of the cities that came out, and there actually was another store that showed up, so someone from At Home showed up just to participate in the ribbon cutting, so it was nice to see other businesses supporting Floor and Decor. And then I attended the Guadalupe County Coalition for Drug Addiction and Alcohol meeting today. It was a Zoom meeting, and that is all.
Councilmember Brown.
And like many others here, the Kick Cancer event, thanks so much to the Parks and Recs folks. You did a great job again, and let's keep it going.
All right, the time is 6:51. We stand adjourned.